Grandmother Kitty taught us with her joy as she washed our feet with her tears and protected you with hawk medicine. It's the medicine of the ancestors. Grandmother told us that in 1996, it was to be the year of commitment and that we would be tested in many ways to enable us to see what was the nature of our true path. We would, by necessity, let go of things which did not strengthen our pathway and help develop our character to its fullest potential. That which was unnecessary would not follow us to the year's end. Many of us would choose to completely change the direction of our lives and those directions which had been taken. Others would find that they would be compelled to wander as if directionless, to seek new places they would be moving to. She warned that relationships would also see radical shifts as our true nature resonated to the mother's higher vibration. Grandmother would say, you know, it's really sad that so much of what we truly are has been repressed within us. People cannot feel themselves anymore. They don't know who they are anymore in the scheme of things. They have lost their way in the game of life, and they stumble around like they are drunk. They are not connected to the earth anymore. They just stumble around, bumping it into each other. And it has become an accidental universe. Living only in the mind of man and not in the heart leads only to madness, because the mind cannot feel. As a result, people lose their ability to feel the moment of a situation. The mother is doing these things to make them feel themselves again. The mother is going to take control of her house back. As she sat back in her chair, Grandmother became very still and very silent. She wove an invisible web with her fingertips, while she interacted with a world that is just beyond the veil. She changed from grandmother to Spider-Woman, Iktomi Wachopte. Grandmother wore every emotional learning she had ever experienced in the lines that graced her face. In her eyes, there were many stories from many levels of reality. Breaking the silence, she turned to me and began her dialogue again. People aren't with each other these days because they know it's right. They are together by accidental circumstance. How can people know what is right for them if they cannot even tell who they are? How can they tell who they are if they cannot feel? People aren't allowed to have feelings of their own anymore. It is a dilemma. A lot of families are going to break up because of this. They engage in their relationships without consequence. They have children without consequence. They live life upon the earth as if it were without consequence. We have taken the honoring out of life, and now we are also losing it from our relationships. It is a great responsibility and an honor to raise young people in this world. Through our own experiences, we know that we come into this life with much to learn about the nature of our reality. Children must be taught what it means to be human beings. They must be taught to walk lightly through this life and respect the earth that gave them the opportunity to experience this life. We all have to pay back to the account of man. We have forgotten to pay our rites of passage. I see that a lot of families are breaking up, which means even more children are going to be homeless and parentless, while their parents go about their business of trying to find out who they are. We have all been fed this lie for so very long, we have begun to believe it. The mother is going to shake up their houses. It bothers me, but perhaps it is necessary. It is better for the children to be alone than to be abused and misled. When the honoring between man and woman is forsaken, the family unit dies. Children can only know to mirror what they see their parents doing. If the parent expresses love through anger because of the lack of love for self within, then it is certain the child will only think to express their need for connecting with that emotion in the manner they were shown. The nature of the dream remains the same. The rules of the game are no different now than they were 180 lifetimes ago. The whole structure of society begins to degenerate as a result of expressing unbalanced relationships. And as a result, we are left with the feeling of abandonment and feeling total lack of support for our beingness. Human beings need to have a reason for being, or they fall apart. They are not as wise as the plants, who are content with just being. It is because so many of us have to accept the condition of living in a synthetic world that we have lost our ability for having an understanding of our own human emotions. Our relationships are becoming corrupt because we no longer have ritual in them anymore. Wolf medicine, ritual, family. Without the deliberate placement of ritual into the dance, that is the dance of life, we forget to keep spirit close to us. The body and the mind need to be integrated with the spiritual reality in order to stay responsive. We can forget that life is a dance. It's possible. Now it's time to remember. When we live our life patterns separated from our spiritual selves, the life essence starts to die within us. Eventually, with the passing of each day, playing out the dream of our necromancer over and over, we grow cold and unfeeling. Soon we lose the dream of each other and sometimes the ability to dream altogether. When we lose our ability to dream, we lose our commitment to life. We lose our connection to our soul. Life becomes a drudgery without any hope of change. Change is what keeps us alive. But this is true only when the nature of change is connected to our dreaming. For then we have purpose. Purpose is born of intent. Human beings are dreamers. That is the way Creator made us. Anything else is an unnatural way of life. Our power and our future as a species depends on us reawakening to this simple but powerful truth. So, the mother is now creating the environment necessary for us to have experiences which will trigger our memory of this knowledge. We can no longer go on living the lie. The time has come that the children must choose their own path. The dream we are dreaming no longer has a life force of its own. Only one thing can change that condition. We must first renew our commitment to the dance of life. It is a matter of heart. It is all a matter of heart. Grandmother felt that this experience would continue for 5 years until it began to come into a calmness once again. We would experience many levels of this emotional, spiritual confusion. She talked often about those who were here quite a long time ago. These were the old ones who gave us our original instructions as caretakers and earth guardians. Caretakers of Mother Earth. Grandmother spoke of how the time was coming when they would return to take an accounting of how we'd done. We will know of the time of their returning from the signs the heavens will bring. New stars will begin to appear in the heavens. There will come 2 kinds of beings from the stars that will appear. There will be those that are benevolent and the lovers of our kind, the givers, the one-horned beings. They will bring with them the energy of spring, birth. They will offer us the chance to renew ourselves, equal to the intensity of our dreams. There will be the other kind, however, the ones with 2 horns or 2 hearts. They are a very ancient race. They come from a time before our memory can see. They will be the reapers, for they will come to gather those who have disconnected from their spirits, those who no longer can use their ability to dream. The 2-horned ones are not evil, however. They are the testers of mankind's will, in fact. They will be here to carry out Creator's will. They will help clear the way so that there is room for the living things to grow. For does not the grass appear to die in the harshness of winter, only to be reborn again with new life and energy in the spring? It is for all things that grow a matter of commitment to the source of life. If we are to grow again in the spring, we must renew our commitment. In this time, there will also be another sign. The stars will join together to create the 8-pointed star in the heavens. The appearance of this star formation will indicate that enough souls have completed this part of the transition. We have earned the right to continue with the great plan of creation. We have learned the way to generate our own reality. We then can keep the dream the Mother gave us freely alive by means of our own free will. We will have become the source of life itself. As the year of our commitment comes into the season of summer, emotional storms are breaking out across the horizons of our dreams like prairie fires. There appears at times to be so much, air quoting, busyness, end of air quoting, in our lives that it is hard to see the forest from the trees. In the Dakotas, they are in preparation for the sun dance. There is a whole new flock of young ones now entering the job market. A whole new generation looking for their place in a world they unwittingly inherited. Everywhere we turn, the young people of this country are in turmoil. And their behavior shows us the state of their confusion. There are people coming out of their cocoons looking to connect spiritually, sexually, and materially to some unseen force in the abstract panorama we experience as the human drama. Life has become a collage of expressionism. It seems as if Van Gogh's visions of twisted trees and violent skies filled with turbulent sunlight have now become our reality. And we must redefine this madness. As we look across the landscapes of the old paradigm, we can see the patterns we left behind that have caused the pain in the human experience. Nailed it right there. The pain. We wonder, are we as mad as he? We stand locked in the dream we created as the hidden pain of billions of people fills the air. The human emotion amplified by the billionth power. Thoughts and emotions too long buried are screaming for release after lifetimes of repression. We witness the human expression suppressed for generations by the religious and political institutions of our world. Many people feel a deep emptiness inside, a lack of fulfillment. They are frantically running around in circles for the most part. They are trying to find their missing piece. Well, perhaps the first mistake is in looking outside yourself. After all, whoever proved we were incomplete? Good question. Perhaps the missing piece theory is only a lie. Perhaps there is no missing piece. A ho to that. Summer is traditionally and naturally the time to strip off the robes that allowed us the introspection of the winter. The robes that sheltered us from the cold and the scrutiny of the collective unconscious. After spending the winter locked in our shells of introspection, we feel the natural desire to throw off the restraints of the cloistered existence and overbearing malice. Summer is the time of coming out, a natural emerging for all life forms. Summer is a time when there are many gatherings across this island of the turtle. People are gathering in thousands of small groups, expressing themselves through many experimental avenues of spiritual release. Many of them are being drawn to Native American teachings, more so than ever before. There seems to be more medicine people out there than I can remember, all competing for the light of center stage. Many are drawn to the Indian way, the good red road. Perhaps this is natural, for most here are a part of the land now. It has been 500 years since the first European broke the spell of innocence in America and began the rape and plunder of this pristine landscape they found when they arrived. America has become a potpourri of mixed nationalities and fragmented spiritual belief patterns. If you are traveling upon the spirit road and you wish to be accepted by those of another faith and culture, You must first be proud and in ownership of your heritage and worth. People will accept one who owns themselves, for that person has all to give to and a little need to take away from others. It is easy to fall in love with the Indian way. On the surface, there seems little responsibility. Running around in pickup trucks, going to powwow, drumming in teepees, and feeling the desire to fly with the eagles. There are exciting shamanic journeys to break the exasperating routines of our unfulfilled lives. But following this Native American path, we find ourselves, more often than not, trapped in another expression of the same old movie. Another unattainable, romantic Hollywood version of life. The Indian. What is an Indian, anyway? Grandfather used to joke and tell me he did not know. He would only say that all his life he lived on the reservation, and he only saw Lakota, never one Indian. In a queer way, it was a grand truth. There is no such thing as an Indian. The name each tribe uses for itself means, air quoting, the people, the human beings, end of air quote. Nowhere is there an indigenous word for Indian. Many people feel a deep emptiness inside, a lack of fulfillment. They are frantically running around in circles, for the most part. They are trying to find their missing piece, not knowing it is within them. Wow. Perhaps the first mistake is in looking outside yourself. After all, whoever proved we were incomplete. Perhaps the missing piece theory is only a lie. Perhaps there is no missing piece, and as for everything outside of ourselves, well, it is just that. It is everything outside of us, and no more. Rien, nil. It is nothing. Everything that we are is within us. And we're connected, heart to heart. If there was a way to describe Indian, it would have to do with realizing self. Realizing self in relationship to Great Spirit, Mother Earth, and all the life forms that dance upon her embodiment. It is being with self, accepting self, empowering self, and loving self. It is seeing the true relationship with all of life around you and mastering it. Knowing that self is okay. The flow of nature outside of us and within us is natural. We are not apart from it. We are a part of it. Indian means just being what you are. Accepting the Creator within as the guiding spirit that empowers our dance through life. We could never be Indian like the old ones talked about in the legends. Not even many, air quoting, real Indians can do that. For the old ones we speak of is a time that no longer exists. Especially on this plane. It is past. It is behind us. We can no longer walk that way. It is not the path of power to walk through this life with your head turned backwards. You will only trip over what is in front of you. You will never get to where you are going. At best, you'll stay snug in the rut of going nowhere, accomplishing nothing. just going around and around on the merry-go-round. How many times have I heard people who come to ceremonies say, "Aho, mitakiwai oyasin," all my relations, only to see them turn around a few moments later in casual conversation and draw lines of demarcation between us and them. We, the people, and them of the establishment. Even I do this. I'm going to chime in when I say they. A little while ago I said F. Bill Gates, and I'm no better. This is a good example of how easy it is to turn and blindly go the wrong direction mentally. I'll continue though. Done chiming in. We who follow our way and those of others, see, my side, their side, black, white, red, Christian, Jew, Hindu, Indian, Mexican, Pole, Asian. This kind of thinking is an affirmation of our being trapped in a limited mind. Can we consider that perhaps there is just simply a human character, a human way? How many times have I seen people come out of the Inipi Lodge feeling like their lives were changed, Sweat Lodge? And in fact, they were. For in that moment, all the doors were opened. They were free of their dogma and their past for a moment. They were free at last to walk into the moment if they simply had chosen to step outside of old patterns of belief. Yet they would insist on returning to a way of life that leads them into one dead end after another, repeating the same old stuff every day of their lives. Their lives become nothing more than recycled ignorance. Freedom of spirit, sovereign choice, has become an illusion to most. How many Indians have I met that do not know the spiritual ways of their own people? Whole tribes have lost their ways, even their language. I have seen young men in tears at my ceremonies because they did not know about their heritage. Those of European ancestry are not exempt from this occurrence, albeit métis or mixed bloods. Ghostwolf, Robert Ghostwolf, was métis. I am métis, but it's no different than what everyone else is. Human. There are many who have been in a state of no remembrance of their grandparents' customs and beliefs, or understanding of their own legacy as people of the earth. It is frightening what organized religion has done to humanity on a global level. Oh, to that. It has built walls between people. It has driven the spirit out of them, separating them from Creator, the earth, their own emotions, and human feelings, and from each other. They have fed humanity with a dogma that, like cancer, is now killing its host. Social consciousness is creating a mutated consciousness. The diagnosis of the patient is that it is unable to support its own life force, and it's creating patterns which will prove suicidal. So, they come to the Indian way, hoping that perhaps they will find salvation from a world gone mad with its own illusions. They come like the waves upon the ocean, in the endless patterns blown by the winds of change. Lila Wakan. They are the sea of emotionally and spiritually wounded. They number in millions now. They are confused and lost, for their world has lost its meaning, lost its spirituality, lost its capability to feel love. It is turning to illusion. They are the children who grew up without learning the meaning of commitment. They are the children of Babylon. They come in all sizes and colors. They come from a multitude of cultural and religious backgrounds. The sickness in the hearts of humanity has become a global epidemic. It is not restricted to a specific region or selected peoples. Truth comes rarely, and only through a handful of teachers who have evolved beyond tradition and dogma, who understand the wholeness of life, and their numbers are very few. The return of the Christos, the Christ, the second coming, is indeed in the making. However, the true second coming is the return of all Christos, all Christs. The Christ in all of us can be accessed at this time. Christos in Mass. Christ in Mass. Christmas! I have to giggle here. That's a beautiful etymology, the makeup of the words. This raising of the Christos, the Christ consciousness, is for all peoples. It is also the rising of the Christ consciousness within all living things. We all are of one Father and one Mother. All upon this plane are one with the Creator. For the God force is within all life forms. And all that transpires upon this plane is the responsibility of each of us. And with great power comes great responsibility. We are the co-creators of reality upon this plane. And what of the Antichrist? It lives in the hearts of humankind. When man, singularly or collectively, can realize that Creator, the source of life, is truly within, then will the Christ be risen. Come on, y'all. Then and only then shall the new Jerusalem be realized upon this plane. There is coming very soon a time of great change in the energy patterns upon this plane. No living thing will go untouched by this mighty change, for all upon this plane is of the same vibration, or it would not be. There is no greater energy and no lesser energy. The Christos, the divine source, has no discernment. It is available to all equally. The degrees of intensity are dependent upon the ability to hold its divine principle of beingness. So, I offer you as a term, a new term, Neo-Indigenous people, the Amerindian. I like it. Those who are of the earth keepers, those who live upon the embodiment of the Sacred Mother. Consider this simple question. Who upon this plane does not contain within them the very elements that we call the earth itself? Reason it out. No one people has the exclusive territorial claim to sacred, for all upon this plane is sacred. Each of us is but a small part of the whole. Many of us are like fish swimming our whole lives trying to discover what is the ocean, only to find in the end that we are in the midst of it. Reality upon this plane is likened to a dream. We are the dreamers of that dream. In matters of personal power, it can only be taken away when you allow someone else's dream to dream you. No one can live another's dream. Dreams can only be shared. When you depart from this plane, you will realize what all who depart from this plane do. That this plane is but a very small part of that which comprises creation. We're all a part of it. At the moment of departure and realization, many desire to rush back into this plane as they realize the gift of being a participant in it. For truly, it is a grand honor to experience life as a human. If you find this hard to believe, perhaps you should consider your perimeters of perception of the state of reality. That which is the result of God's creation. That which is the principle of divine law. If all things were created by God, then how could any one thing be less of God than the other? Nailing it here. Are not all things of God? Is not all that is around you God? And if this God made all things, then who made the devil? Is there a devil? Great questions. We get hung up on our words. We get lost in the interpretation of the words. The creator of all things has no name. The creator, the source of life, cannot be contained in a word. The creator simply is. If you wish to see the variations of meaning of the word God, try thinking about all the different languages and cultures that are upon this earth. Then try to think of all the civilizations that have come before our time and all their words for God. Now, think of all their definitive descriptions of their God. God. Generate, operate, destroy. God is all things. God is the source that causes the seed to become the flower. God is the soil that the flower grows upon, as well as the sunlight it seeks for energy. God is the scent of the flower as well as the texture of the flower. God is the color of the flower. God is the flower in life and in death. God, the Father, is the source, the thought of all that is. Christ, the Christos, is the God in man. There is a grand change that's coming. It's coming, be sure of it. All life forms in our solar system are aware of it. The whole of the earth is aware of it. Every living thing. Only man resists. The other living beings of this earth, the trees, the animals, the fishes, that which you can see with your eyes and that which you cannot see, are also aware of its coming. Terrans are not exclusive in the realization of the fact that something big is going on. As a matter of fact, we are in many ways behind other life forms in waking up to the reality of it, which is the irony that we are top dog here. Disagreed. Agree to disagree. and flow with it. We have become children lost in a maze of our own creation. It is the maze of limited mind. We are seeking and are turning to ancient ways of the indigenous people, a way back home, a way back to the beginning of it all. The indigenous people who have survived the onslaught of centuries of civilization hold within their consciousness the original plan of creation, the fragments of the original understanding of spiritual truth. Their stories are written on the rocks. Look everywhere upon our planet. The people from all cultures wrote it on the rocks, the living stones, the same symbols, the same geometry, the same holographic language. I'm going to chime in. Google the Nazca lines in Peru. It's Nasca. Maybe that's not spelled correctly. Google that. It's beautiful. Truth. There is a new energy that was born at the spring equinox of March in 1995. It is filling the consciousness of the world, known and unknown. It is about being yourself, living in your truth, being what you are, and being your truth. Life is all about change, which means that the person endeavoring to learn an ancient custom should be cautious about becoming trapped in the dogma that might be embedded in this tradition. Labels, I would say be wary of labels. My gut has always been like, nah, don't think I'm gonna identify with a label spiritually. It takes away from the truth. The old ways do not necessarily apply to today's world. They were designed for situations that existed then. Take the knowledge from the history of a thing and apply it to the now. Apply it to yourself. Learning to master the now is the only way one can truly affect change. It is a matter of alchemy. The past is simply a time-space event, a frozen moment of God's expression. We remember the events of our life and take from it the experiences we choose to embrace for learning. Remember, walking with your head turned backwards is not the pathway to power. Tomorrow is created in the action you choose in this moment. The new world, if it is to exist, will be brought about by the very courageous people who hold within themselves the tenacity to stand up against the rigid limitations of centuries of dogma and control. The critics will be harsh, yes. They always have been. But no one has ever built monuments to critics, have they? It has always been the few that had the courage to dream that resulted in change. Let's do it. All hands on deck. It is not popular to be a genius these days. Unfortunately, it's not too popular to speak truth either, but I believe that can change. I have to. We are changing it. The people who will bring about the new consciousness will do it in spite of the actions of the collectively unconscious. They will have learned to reach inside themselves and bring about their own vision of reality. The stories that have been handed down from the grandfathers and grandmothers were the grandfathers and grandmothers' stories. They were on their own path, living their own dreams. That is why they are so honored. They were not preoccupied with living someone else's dream. They were men and women of sovereign vision. Their stories are shared with you in hopes to be an inspiration to make you want to seek your own destiny. You are like seeds lying dormant in the earth. There is a force swelling up within you. You do not know why, but you are feeling moved to push your way through the rocks and the soil. In the first part of the journey, you don't see the light. Life, it seems, is always formed in darkness of the void. Though you don't even know what the light is, you struggle and feel your way through your blindedness and the unknowing. You grow anyway. You are, for the sake of being. This is the essence of the force that we call Ska, S-K-A, the great mystery, that which moves the life force, that which causes all things to occur the way they do. It is life seeking to fulfill itself. Through its process, the seed has no way of knowing that it will become a rose. It has no way of knowing that above the dark world of its known existence, there is brilliant sunlight or the sounds of birds singing. Nor does it know that its future depends on its willingness to allow the bee to pollinate it, or that some thoughtless human might come along and pick it to place it upon their lover's table. There was never a master seed schooled in the wisdom of the ancient seeds. The seed just is. It relies upon its own instincts, the inner voice that is telling it to grow, grow, grow. It is within itself content to be the seed, to seek nourishment and water, to push even the rocks from its path of destiny. We humans are, by our true nature, the same as that seed. What about those masters and shamans, mastresses and shamanesses, who did not make the headlines? How did they view the world and their relationship to Creator? Through their own eyes is the answer. This is the essence of the master, the shaman. They saw the great mystery through their own eyes. They possessed their own thoughts. In no other way could they have achieved what they did. They did not let someone else dream their dream. They owned themselves. Thus, the spirits spoke to them, and they were able to speak to the spirits. The veil that separates us from spirit is only a thin veil of illusion. Our limitations lie in how we ourselves perceive ourselves to be limited. Whatever you come to own in your being, you own. No one can take it from you. If you are afraid of losing your power, perhaps you have not yet made the conscious choice to own that power. Great power is never held or possessed. Rather, power and the access of power is a process of allowing. You become the power by allowing it to be what it will be, not by controlling it. If you can control it, it is not real power. You can only control yourself in the flow of real power. Power flows like a river. To claim your power, you must first come to terms with your life and make the conscious effort to own yourself, to claim responsibility for the whole of your life. Evolution is a process, not an event. Awakening means just that. Awakening from slumber to the truth that lies within you, lying dormant within. Wakey, wakey. And if we stop and think about it, are we ever fully awake when we first rise from a night's sleep? When you go to your teacher, when you go to have your growing experience, we'll call it, know that it is about self-realization. You are not there to steal away the secret wisdom of some wizard. They are not there to give you their power. Rather, they are sharing what they have come to own and to pass it on so that you are able to continue on your next evolutionary experience by passing on their wisdom. Their load is lightened. They have followed the law of the giveaway. It's turkey medicine. Over the next few years, as the vibrations of the earth plane continue to intensify, commitment will remain a matter of choice. You shall have the choice of being one with Creator, or being lost in the limitation of materialistic worship and the continued devotion to ignorance. No one will come to judge you. You are the Lord God of your being. No matter what you presently perceive your reality to be, whichever pathway, whatever reality you choose, so shall it be, so mote it be. People will begin to notice that this condition of instant manifestation will show itself moment by moment. Life will continue to quicken as we evolve out of necessity for time in our experience. In the span of a single day, you will have the opportunity, through choice, to go from the highest end of the spectrum to the lowest ebb of human emotion. There will be no easy, smooth pathway. One must be conscious and awake every moment of each waking day. We are going to be taught to become responsible for our thoughts and actions through example. The free ride is over. In the supreme humor of Creator, whatever you desire shall you become. This law will manifest in your life with the velocity of hurricane force winds. In many cases, for those working with disciplines of higher consciousness, there will again be many experiences of almost instantaneous manifestation of thoughts and desires. We are going to have to quickly learn to become the captains of our own ships. This is going to demand complete mastery over those unconscious thoughts. You know, the ones we have while driving to work, when we thought no one was listening, or while we were walking down the aisle of the supermarket. We can change the mood of the day and the course of our lives in a moment of careless, self-indulgent thought. Or we can, in that same moment of experience, requalify our thoughts and change the effect of their outcome. Each time we choose an action, we alter our future. Together, by the way, forever. And the future is a mutable reality. You can expect a lot of extremes in your life experiences in the 5 years leading up to the millennium, as we are prepared for the eventual complete shifting of the Earth's energies. Use the experiences to strengthen your inner values and your sense of self-unity with the spirit within. Now, more than ever before in the history of humankind, we are going to have to integrate self. All of the aspects of ourselves. We have become a fractured composite of the many aspects of ourselves that we are trying to maintain independently and secretly from our other parts. Society is suffering from a disease called denial. When we live in denial, it is a natural tendency to separate the different aspects of our personality in fear that one might slip out and show itself at an undesirable moment. This is causing extreme stress within individuals. It's really hard to keep those masks on, huh? As the new energies entering the earth plane make it very difficult to perpetuate dualities within ourselves. There is our spiritual self, the public self, the self we project for career success, the self we show only to our lover, and the self that only we know in the quiet of the night, when all around us is dark. Of course, our spiritual side we mostly keep secret, which causes a lot of friction with the side we create for the outside world to see. Now, some of you will argue that it is the nature of human beings to be multifaceted, or that we are multidimensional beings. After all, isn't that what the New Age gurus are feeding us? Unfortunately, this synthesized part of ourselves compromises our true inner nature for the sake of material success and social status. The solution? Get simple. God is all things. God is the source that causes the seed to become the flower. God is the soil that the flower grows upon, as well as the sunlight it seeks for energy. God is the scent of the flower as well as the texture of the flower. God is the color of the flower. God is the flower in life and in death. God, the Father, is the source, the thought of all that is. Christ is the God living in mankind, all of us. Oh, Happies is snoring. Over the next decade, we will see great stratification of the dimensional realities occurring, which will increase as we come closer to the shift, which at this point in time can be expected to occur sometime between the year 2000 and 2007 in our counting. The polarization process, which is occurring, is a natural order of things, as the mother sorts out the cupboards of our hidden consciousness. She is assisting us in clearing out our hidden agendas. You will find yourselves being polarized towards that which you hold close to your core belief patterns, drawn toward each experience which leads you to the next step in your evolutionary process. Those who are approaching the understanding that all is one will be magnetized to that vibratory field of energy, and their lives will indeed reflect it. Likewise, those who find it hard to let go of the self-gratification of the altered ego, and those who keep grasping onto the unwinding games of power and tyranny, over their fellow humans and are stuck on their addictions to material spirituality shall reap a very bitter and empty harvest. Indeed. Try in these times to understand that which we have come to call the Armageddon is occurring first within the souls of humankind. The fire that consumes the world shall be the fire of human emotions we have not yet learned to master. The earth and you are one. You are reflecting her feelings, emotions, desires, as she reflects yours. What you are feeling in your inner being, whether it be turmoil and violence or the peacefulness of the master, shall be reflected in the whole of life around you. This is governed by the laws of attraction. Life will and must affirm your innermost thoughts and desires. The mother will continue to clean her house and shake things up. She is getting rid of all undesirable emotions and unappreciative guests. She is tempering our emotional strength so we can learn to deal with a time when our thoughts will manifest in the moment we think them. Those who remain rigid and are not willing to change with the process of her restructuring the nature of reality will have a very hard time coping with things. We will witness the polarization and then breakdown of class systems, as financial systems and the social structures they are attached to continue to fall away. One of the effects of the resulting chaos is that we will be made more and more aware of the necessity for our individual and environmental sovereignty. These will need to be developed to degrees where we can absolutely rely upon them. We will, if we choose freedom of choice, have to eventually break away from the, air quoting here, system, or be forced to take the debit card and comply. Complete change will occur within our lives, sometimes within a matter of a few days or even hours. It will appear to many as if shattered by the higher vibrations of universal law. This shall be the case the world over. As we draw closer to the millennium, the intensity of the geophysical changes occurring upon the surface of the earth, along with the accompanying erratic extremes of weather and the confusion of seasons, shall be governed by universal laws of attraction. The consciousness of humankind shall draw onto itself its manifestation of the collective thought in specific areas. The emotion held by the local inhabitants of a particular region shall immediately affect the nature of weather in that microclimate. Let's make it rain. Just enough. Maybe not so much somewhere else. Balance. We got this. All hands on deck. The forces of nature will play themselves out in physically in direct relation to the human drama, which dominates that particular region. So, scientists will have no explanation for this kind of meteorological behavior. Scientists. It will be quite interesting to watch. Unless you develop your inner spirituality and the acceptance of all that is as a being part of Creator, these will prove to be very hard times. The dogmatic, politically structured religions of the world will eventually fail in their attempts to manifest a global program to control the peoples of the earth. We're not a conquered people. There will be significant numbers of people who will realize through the friction of their experience that they have been caught up in a fabricated system that was created purely to enslave them. The peoples of this earth long for the reunion of their spirits and the reconnection to creation. In the state of true oneness of all humanity, it is their destiny. Their leaders shall begin to run like frightened children from forces and powers from which they have long ago separated themselves, and of which they have little to no understanding or knowledge to control. They shall find no comforting answers to the questions that humanity shall present before them. This is a time when humankind is being given the gift of choosing their destiny. The blue ray is upon the planet, and it is a two-edged sword. It is time to separate from the, air quoting, herd, mentally called social consciousness. Humankind is being given the opportunity to expand into God consciousness. It is their destiny. Those who do not choose to follow this pathway, that is, being open to them as we enter into a fourth dimensional reality of the fifth world, shall be provided a place where they can develop at their own rate. But as for this earth, she is already moving along on schedule. Her course can no longer be altered or slowed. We must move with self-assurance and with the speed of the hawk, for the drawing of the awakened man is at hand. For the dawning of the awakened man is at hand. The age of our tyranny over each other is coming to an abrupt close. The sacred hoop is already spinning in its sacred spiral pattern, expanding into tomorrow. This can only be viewed by one coming fully into the now, the present. The earth is simply moving towards its next step along its own evolutionary path, and no one can predict when that final shift will actually occur. All we can do is prepare ourselves. We can see the storm clouds in the distant horizon. They are telling us to tie down and prepare for the brunt of the storm. All that can be verified at this time is that the storm is inevitable. Everything will be changed after its passing. Aho.